Hey guys, it's Dave. Thank you so much for tuning in as always. Today, Rocket Lab has hit a new 52-week high, which makes it a great day in general if you ask me, and a great day to talk about the stock a little bit and give you some updates on what's going on with the company lately. Before we get into that though, I hope if you're new here, you will consider hitting subscribe by the end of the video. Every new subscriber is very much appreciated. And if you're not, well, thank you for continuing to watch, and I'll be sure to check out your comments down below. Oh, and before I forget, I do also need to thank our 3 newest channel members. We have Viking Leong, D's Memes, and Joey DK. Thank you guys for the support. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk Rocket Lab. Okay, so of course, starting off with the stock, as I said previously, we hit a new 52-week high today, actually hitting $11 per share. I really didn't expect us to get this high this fast, if I'm being honest. We were kind of butting up against that $10 per share mark for the last few days. It was going over, back under, all sorts of memes going around about prairie dogs bouncing their head up and back down, or bulls versus bears and all that kind of stuff. But we finally seemed to definitively break through that level today, going all the way from about $10 to $11 up as of this picture, about $1.06, 10%. Very big move actually on a day when there doesn't appear to be any major news around the company itself. And while the stock markets as a whole are green, they're not that largely green that I could attribute this move to the overall markets either, because it is quite an outperformance when it comes to Rocket Lab. So to me, this is mostly being driven by the technicals. The stock did break through that previous resistance level, and now it has shot up well past it. So yeah, congratulations to all investors. Wasn't expecting this today, but of course I'll take it. Very happy with the returns on my shares over the past 6 months. This chart here, 1 month, kind of showing how we were bouncing around a little bit before breaking through. And obviously just an amazing year, right? We're going from like $4 to $11 now. You can't complain about that. Okay, so we have to talk about the launches now when it comes to the actual stock. It's something that people are getting more and more concerned about. We're in Q4 now. We're starting to get into mid-October. We haven't really seen any launches yet in Q4. We've had 11 launches so far total, and the company has projected about 15 to 18 launches, 18 being a very outside chance, so I wouldn't count on that. I was personally banking on 16 launches for the company at least. So I really want to see some launches get going here, because the pace that they have to make to even get to that 15 number is pretty close to the company's record. When you look at the good old Naylor chart, shout out to Naylor once again, member of the Discord server and all around good guy. He likes to make these charts showing number of launches per quarter as well as per month. And we can see we had 4 in Q1, 4 in Q2, 3 in Q3. So we've had 4 launches before for the company, but never 5 in a quarter, which means to get to that 16 number I was really hoping for, it needs to be a record-breaking quarter. And obviously, when you're off to a bit of a slower start, that makes it even harder. So something to think about here in terms of the launch numbers, and a lot of discussion has been going on about what comes next and how many launches we can get off in this quarter. I do expect 2 haste launches in Virginia, which means we would need, well, hopefully 3 regular launches out in New Zealand. And we did start to get some indications that the next launch from New Zealand might be coming soon via a post originally on NASA spaceflight forums and was picked up on Twitter and all those other places. Basically, there is a hazardous operations warning for New Zealand here that says there will be a rocket launching, and it's no earlier than October 19th through October 31st. So coming up very soon now, just in a couple days would be when this window would start to open. And it does seem like Rocket Lab has kind of not been announcing launches as far in advance lately. So maybe we have a launch here just around the corner, which would be great because, as I said, they definitely have a tough job ahead of them to get to even the midpoint of that guidance. Like a 16 and, 17 would be great. Personally, I don't think they'll make it to 18 at all, but I will say if we end the year at 15 launches, to me, that's a disappointing year. Yes, once again, we're talking customer readiness and customers not being ready and it not really being Rocket Lab's fault. That's true, of course, but at the end of the day, the revenue is the revenue, and that number is lighter for launch than I was expecting and hoping. So for me, whatever caused it to happen, if we do hit 15 launches for the year, that's a disappointment. Even 16 is a bit disappointing, to be honest, when we were talking 22, 24 to start the year, but, I'll take it, just kind of how these things seem to go with Electron, and Electron obviously becoming a smaller and smaller part of that overall business model, so less impactful, but you do still want to see the growth continue beyond this year. So we will be watching for information on upcoming launches from Rocket Lab very closely over the coming months to see where that number ends up for the quarter and for 2024. Let me know your guesses down below for how many launches you think they'll get in the quarter and therefore in the year. And also, by the way, in the Discord server, link in the description down below as well, we're doing a little bit of a contest. People are guessing how many launches they think Rocket Lab will have in 2025. Everyone's putting in $10 and the winners will split the pot. So if you're interested in that, you can check out the Discord server as well in the description below. All right, guys, we have some last minute additions here. Rocket Lab just announced a new launch. This could be the same one we saw that notice for in New Zealand in terms of the 19th. We have the launching no earlier than Saturday, October 19th for a confidential customer. So pretty exciting. I wonder what it could be. Maybe NRO. I do believe this is from New Zealand, so not a haste launch, but definitely good news, and we're certainly overdue for our next launch. Peter Beck also just tweeted as well an image of our next Archimedes engine on the way to the test stand as they continue to pump them out for testing and validation, so another good piece of news there as well. We also recently did get some pictures shared on Twitter of the launch site by No Life Jordan 69, so thank you, Jordan, for sharing those. This one from September 20th showing some decent progress being made at the Neutron launch site in Wallops, Virginia. Now, overlaying these two on top of each other, the first picture on top was taken in late August, and the bottom updated picture was September 20th. Still not completely up to date because we're obviously now getting into mid-October, but still interesting to track the changes. So first of all, we can see the water bucket here starting to take shape as more concrete is poured and that rebar starts to get hidden. Obviously, there was a lot more of it showing in the top version of the picture. Then right above that, the groundwork for what should eventually have some lightning towers beginning to take shape as we have more of that going on than the top as well. Of course, we have these large tanks that were not in the previous picture. These are for liquid oxygen or LOX. That's starting to take shape, as well as looks like some concrete below them as well. And for the bottom left here, we appear to have the CH4 farm starting to take shape with more concrete being poured in place versus the top version where it was just in the beginning stages. So good to see some progress being made on the ground infrastructure launch pad side of things. Here we have a more close-up picture that gives you a sense of scale where that concrete may have looked small zoomed out, but a person there standing inside of it, a ton of rebar. This one taken on October 6th, so a little bit more recent, but again, not quite up to date. Interesting to see those pictures and to see that launch site taking shape. I do feel a little better about that June launch date that they have in mind now. When I look at this launch infrastructure, it feels like they're kind of on pace for that from what I can understand anyway. Next up, I figured I should just mention that Rocket Lab did host Bloomberg for a technology episode at their headquarters. I was kind of hoping there would be some big announcements. We also had Northwood Space in attendance, as well as Endurial and Varda and all sorts of companies. So I was hoping we might have some more deals, contracts, or partnerships being announced with either Endurial, Northwood, or maybe a new contract with Varda. We didn't get any of that, unfortunately. If you do want to check it out, you can look on Bloomberg's website for the interview with Adam Spice, but personally, I didn't find a lot new there. Hopefully, at least, though, this is giving Rocket Lab more exposure to the everyday investor who's not as familiar with the space industry, which is always a good thing, of course, for the company. So there was at least that, although for me, not the most exciting event. Jared Isaacman from Polaris Dawn fame was kind of chiming in a little bit on Twitter lately. I was hesitant to even share this because it's not really Rocket Lab news, but I do respect his opinion, so I'll share what he said. And what he did say was basically he would not want to be an investor in another launch vehicle provider when Starship comes online. So he says there's a lot of other stuff people should be doing, but he seems to be very scared for any other launch provider once Starship comes online. Asked about it further, he said he's actually a big fan of what Rocket Lab has achieved. They don't really have the capital that SpaceX and Blue Origin have, and he kind of likes Blue Origin's position better to bring some competition to SpaceX. So I understand what he's trying to say. I don't fully agree with it. I do think with Neutron, they're kind of in a good place for size, that they're small enough not to compete directly with Starship. But the nice thing is Space Systems growing more and more. Neutron doesn't have to be, a dominant rocket in the industry in order for Rocket Lab to grow massively. It just has to do well, be able to launch their own constellation, and hopefully pick up some other customers. Speaking of Starship, though, I'm sure a lot of you did see the exciting test launch this past weekend, and, so exciting, I have to say. Definitely wasn't too sure if they were gonna land this booster catch on the first attempt, but SpaceX did, and it was extremely impressive as well as extremely cool to watch. A lot of news outlets picking it up, and a lot of people saying this is kind of like the dawn of the new space age, and I do agree, it's very exciting. A lot of people, of course, whenever there's big Starship news like this, start talking about Rocket Lab and whether they should be concerned about their shares. So what I have to say about this in terms of my opinion, well, first of all, just congratulations to SpaceX on an amazing achievement, and they continue to really raise the bar and push the industry forward. But my personal investment in Rocket Lab has never been based on the assumption that SpaceX would fail. And if you personally are invested in Rocket Lab because you think SpaceX will fail, I suggest you take a look at the history, because basically the entire history of SpaceX, that has proved to be a very bad investment. So personally, I believe Rocket Lab can and will be successful in a world where Starship is also successful and the industry is big enough and should have more than one player in launch. As well, Rocket Lab, of course, with the big Space Systems division, looking to have their logo on every single thing being sent to space, meaning they're going to be supplying components for the growing space industry that should get even bigger as there's more launch capacity going online and launch gets cheaper and cheaper. So Space Systems hopefully stands to benefit from that, and I've always expected that eventually Starship would be successful, at least to a certain degree, maybe not quite as cheap as Elon has talked about, but I always thought they would get there in the end in terms of launching and probably even completely reusability. So that was just my thoughts on that. Very exciting event for fans of the space industry, and a lot of people really got into it. Some amazing views. Congrats to SpaceX. Still think Rocket Lab has room to execute, and luckily Neutron is smaller than even, say, a Terran R. So hopefully what a lot of people used to think of as being too small for a Neutron might actually be a bit of a sweet spot, still serving medium launch, but not being disrupted quite as much as some of those larger vehicles by Starship. At least that's kind of my current thought on things. And of course, the whole dynamics changed completely when you talk about launching your own constellation and getting income off of that versus just trying to find customers to launch. Completely different ball game there as well. So let me know your thoughts on this recent Starship launch down below and how you think that could impact Rocket Lab in the future. Continuing on, we do have a couple upcoming interviews from Peter Beck. Now, there's a few private ones upcoming that we probably aren't going to be able to get a recording of, but Markets with Madison, a New Zealand-based tech reporter, will be speaking with Peter Beck on October 25th and October 27th. So looking forward to getting those interviews from him. She's usually a pretty good interviewer. Hopefully we can get some great new information out of this one. Finally, Rocket Lab also did announce the date of their next earnings call, which is Tuesday, November 12th. I'll be sure to live stream this one as well for you if you're interested in hanging out with me and listening to the earnings call and discussing things afterwards. You can check back in on this channel for that. Definitely looking forward to those Q3 results as well as the guidance for Q4. So that's what I have for you today. Congratulations to shareholders on the new 52-week high. Hopefully you're all doing pretty well on your shares and up as opposed to being in the red after so long. I know it's a great feeling, especially if you've been holding since the SPAC days when you bought at $10 or even over. Hopefully if you did do that, you've at least averaged down since then. Great run for the stock. Looking forward to continued progress in that earnings call November 12th. We should get more great pictures of Neutron, the launch infrastructure taking shape, and all the rest. So really looking forward to that. Do let me know how you think about the Starship test launch and how that will affect Rocket Lab down below, as well as what you're planning to do with your shares if you're making any moves, sales, purchases. Always interested to hear. For me, I continue to just hold on to my shares as I have for the last while and kind of waiting to see where things level off with the stock after this amazing run. Hope you guys do have a great day and a great rest of the week. If you haven't subscribed, please do consider doing that, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.